Mrs. Karen was the kind of woman who noticed everything and everyone. From her window, she could see the whole street. She watched the mailmen, the kids on bikes, and even the cats that wandered through gardens. But on one quiet Monday morning, something new caught her attention. A large moving truck stopped across the street. Karen squinted. Two people got out, a black man and a young black woman, clearly pregnant. They looked happy, laughing, holding hands. The man opened the car door for his wife like a gentleman. Karen leaned forward on her chair, whispering to herself, "Oh, this is going to be interesting." She quickly picked up her phone and called her neighbor, Mrs. Diane. "You won't believe it, Diane," she said. "A new couple just moved into the Wilson house. And, well, they don't exactly look like they belong here." Diane asked, "What do you mean?" Karen replied in a low voice, "You'll see. Come by for tea. I'll show you." Soon, the neighborhood buzzed with whispers. "How can they afford that house? Maybe they're renting. Did you see the woman's clothes? Designer brands. Strange." But Malik and Nia, the new couple, paid no attention. They stayed focused on their new home. They painted the porch, trimmed the hedges, and planted new flowers along the walkway. Every morning, Malik waved politely at Karen, and every morning she just stared back. Sometimes she'd pull her curtain closed slowly, just to show she wasn't happy. One afternoon, while watering her roses, Karen saw Malik carrying something heavy. She squinted again. It was a box labeled medical equipment. Her thoughts raced. Medical stuff. Why would they need that? She felt suspicious, again. Later that evening, she watched Nia sit quietly in the garden, reading a book with one hand on her belly. Karen frowned. Something's not right. People like them don't just move into this neighborhood. It's not normal. A few days later, Karen saw her chance. Malik had gone to the store. Nia was alone, watering plants in front of her house. Karen crossed the street, pretending to admire the flowers. "Hello there," she said with a fake smile. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" Nia smiled warmly. "Yes, it is. The flowers are finally blooming." Karen nodded and looked around. Then she asked, "So, do you and your husband work around here? Or are you visiting?" Nia raised an eyebrow. "We live here." Karen chuckled softly. "Oh, of course. I just meant, it's a big house. Expensive, too. Some folks rent, you know." Nia's smile didn't fade, but her voice turned cool. "We bought the house, actually. And we're very happy to be here." Karen paused, then asked one more question. "Do you work, dear, or are you helping him with something?" That was the moment Nia's smile faded. She looked Karen straight in the eyes. "I'm more than just his wife, but you'll find out soon enough." Karen stood still, confused. Nia turned and walked back to her garden, gently touching a flower with her hand. Karen walked back to her home, her thoughts racing. Who is she? What is she hiding? What did she mean by that? She sat back in her chair by the window, this time not out of boredom, but curiosity. For the first time in years, she didn't know something about her neighbors, and that bothered her more than anything. As the sun set and the streetlights came on, Karen kept staring at the house across the street. Something told her this was just the beginning. The next morning, Karen stood by her kitchen window, holding her coffee cup and watching the house across the street. Malik stepped out, dressed in a neat black suit. He kissed Nia on the forehead before getting into his car. Karen narrowed her eyes. A suit. Is he pretending to be a businessman now? Nia stayed outside, watering her garden, wearing a long dress and a wide sun hat. Karen stared at her for a long time. She felt annoyed and jealous, but more than anything, she felt uncomfortable. She didn't like not knowing who her neighbors were. Later that afternoon, she decided to get closer. Karen crossed the street again, this time carrying a small plate of cookies. She smiled, but her smile was tight. "I thought I'd bring something sweet to welcome you," she said. Nia took the plate with a polite smile. "Thank you. That's kind of you." Karen looked around the yard. Then she asked, "So, do you and your husband plan to stay here long?" Nia replied, "Yes, this is our home now." Karen nodded slowly. Then she leaned in slightly and said, "You know, this neighborhood has certain expectations. People keep things neat, quiet, traditional." Nia tilted her head. "I see." Karen smiled again, but this time it was sharper. "Of course, people talk. Some were surprised when they saw who moved in." Nia's smile didn't fade. She replied softly, "That's funny. We didn't expect anyone to be surprised. We just wanted peace." Karen looked annoyed. "Peace is earned, dear. It doesn't come with a house key." Nia's face changed for a second, but just for a moment. She looked directly at Karen and said, "Some people earn peace by minding their own garden. You should try that sometime." Karen's eyes widened. She felt insulted, but Nia's voice was calm, her expression still kind. Karen turned quickly and walked away. As she stepped onto her own porch, she heard Nia say quietly behind her, "And thank you again for the cookies." Karen shut the door hard. She placed the empty cookie plate on the counter and stood in silence. Something about Nia made her feel small. Who was this woman? She was polite, but strong, graceful, but mysterious. And somehow, she made Karen feel like she didn't belong on her own street. That night, Karen couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about that one sentence. "You should try that sometime." It wasn't just a reply. It was a message. And Karen didn't like feeling like someone else had the last word. Over the next few days, Karen couldn't stop thinking about her conversation with Nia. She felt unsettled, like there was something she was missing. Something important. She spent the entire week keeping a close eye on the couple, but they didn't do anything unusual. They came and went, always polite, always friendly. Still, Karen couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to them. One afternoon, Karen saw Malik loading boxes into their house. This time, they weren't just regular moving boxes. These were large, heavy, and looked like they came from a medical supply company. Karen's curiosity grew stronger. "What are they doing with all that medical stuff?" she muttered to herself. She knew she had to find out. Later that evening, she saw Malik leave the house, locking the door behind him. Karen's heart raced. This was her chance. She waited until the street was quiet. Then she quietly walked across the street to the couple's home. She knew it was wrong, but she couldn't help herself. There was something about Nia and Malik that just didn't add up. She approached the side of the house, where she saw a small window cracked open. It was dark inside, but she could hear soft voices. Karen tiptoed closer. She pressed her ear against the window, holding her breath. From inside, she heard Nia's voice, calm but low. "Malik, do you think they know?" Malik's voice followed, sounding serious. "Not yet, but we need to be careful. If they find out too soon, everything will be over." Karen's heart skipped a beat. What were they talking about? What did they mean by find out? What were they hiding? She leaned forward, trying to hear more, but suddenly, a shadow moved inside the house. Karen quickly stepped back, her breath caught in her throat. Malik's figure appeared in the window, looking out into the dark. Karen froze. She wasn't sure if he saw her or not, but he didn't seem to move. She waited for what felt like forever. Her heart pounded in her chest. Finally, he turned away, and the sound of a door closing followed. Karen sighed in relief, but the confusion only deepened. What were they hiding? The next day, Karen decided to confront Nia again. She couldn't stand the uncertainty. She crossed the street, walked up to Nia's front door, and knocked. The door opened, and Nia greeted her with a calm smile. "Hello, Karen. How can I help you?" Karen hesitated. She looked Nia in the eyes, trying to figure out how to ask the question. I heard something last night about a secret. What's going on with all the medical boxes? What are you two doing here? Nia's face remained calm, but Karen saw a flicker of something like worry, in her eyes. It's nothing like you think, Nia replied gently. We're just trying to help people, Karen. It's a difficult thing to understand, but you'll learn in time. Karen felt a mix of confusion and frustration. Learn? What is it that I need to learn? You're not telling me the truth. Nia took a deep breath. Maybe not yet, but trust me, the truth is more complicated than you think. She paused before adding softly, and sometimes what we think is a secret is just part of a bigger picture. Karen didn't know what to say. She turned around and walked back to her house, her mind racing. What was Nia really hiding? What did she mean by helping people? And why did Karen feel like she was missing something huge? That night, Karen couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the words echoing in her mind. The truth is more complicated than you think. The next morning, Karen couldn't stop thinking about her conversation with Nia. There was something off about the way she spoke. It felt like a warning. The truth is more complicated than you think. That line kept echoing in Karen's head. It frustrated her. She didn't like being left in the dark. As the day went on, Karen watched the couple from her window again. Malik was outside, busy with the garden, while Nia was inside the house, out of sight. Karen was about to give up when a black car suddenly pulled up to the house. She squinted, trying to see who it was. It was a luxury car, sleek and expensive. Two men stepped out, dressed in business suits. They looked important, but Karen didn't recognize them. Who are these people? Karen whispered, her curiosity growing. She had to find out. The men knocked on the door, and Nia opened it. They shook hands, exchanging a few words before the men walked inside. Karen felt a chill run down her spine. She didn't know what was happening, but she knew one thing. Something was going on behind that door. Her heart was racing. She couldn't just sit back and do nothing. She grabbed her purse and rushed out the door, telling herself it was just a casual visit. Karen walked quickly across the street, trying to act normal. As she approached Nia's house, she paused at the edge of the yard, pretending to admire the flowers. But her eyes never left the door. Suddenly, Nia appeared in the doorway, smiling at the men as they walked out. Karen took a deep breath and walked toward the door. "Oh, I was just passing by. I wanted to see how you were doing," Karen said, trying to sound casual. Nia smiled politely. "I'm doing well, Karen. How are you?" Karen hesitated, unsure what to say next, but she couldn't just leave without getting some answers. "I saw those men leave. Who were they?" she asked, her voice a little too sharp. Nia's smile didn't fade, but her eyes narrowed slightly. "Just some colleagues. We worked together on a charity project." Karen nodded slowly, but she wasn't convinced. She could tell Nia was hiding something. "A charity project?" Karen repeated, raising an eyebrow. "How interesting. But you're not exactly the type of person I would expect to be involved in something like that." Nia's expression didn't change. "You're right. I'm not what you expected. But I'm doing something I believe in, Karen. And that's all that matters." Karen stood there, feeling the awkward tension between them. She wanted to press further, but something in Nia's calm voice made her hesitate. "Well, I hope it goes well," Karen said, though she didn't believe a word of it. She turned to leave, but before she reached the sidewalk, Nia spoke again. "You don't need to know everything, Karen. Sometimes the truth can be more than we're ready for." Karen froze in her tracks. Nia's words hit her like a punch in the stomach. She turned slowly, trying to keep her face calm. "What do you mean by that?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Nia took a deep breath, her eyes softening. "I mean that sometimes it's better not to know. Trust me." Without waiting for a response, Nia closed the door behind her. Karen stood on the sidewalk, staring at the closed door. She felt a mix of confusion and fear. What was Nia trying to say? Was she in danger? Or was Nia simply playing with her mind? Karen turned and walked back to her house, her mind spinning with questions. She couldn't shake the feeling that the more she learned, the deeper the mystery became. And she was afraid of what might happen if she dug too deep. Days passed, and Karen's curiosity only grew. She couldn't stop thinking about Nia's words, especially the cryptic message. Sometimes it's better not to know. But the more she tried to push it aside, the more something inside her told her to keep digging. Something wasn't right, and she couldn't ignore it. One Friday evening, Karen decided to do something bold. She had to find out the truth. She couldn't just stand by and let the mystery grow. So, she dressed in her best clothes, put on a confident smile, and walked across the street to Nia's house once again. This time, she wasn't just going to ask questions, she was going to get answers. She knocked on the door, and Nia answered almost immediately, as if she'd been expecting her. "Karen, back again," Nia said, a small, knowing smile on her face. "I need to know the truth," Karen said, her voice firm. "What are you really doing here?" Nia's eyes softened, but there was a sadness behind them. "I've told you before, Karen. Some things are better left untouched." But Karen wasn't backing down. "I don't care anymore about being polite. What are you hiding? Why all the secrecy? You're not just helping people, are you? What is all this really about?" Nia looked at her for a long moment, as though debating whether or not to tell her. Finally, she sighed and stepped aside. "Come inside. I'll show you. But you may regret it." Karen felt a mix of excitement and fear as she stepped into the house. Nia led her to a room at the back of the house, one Karen had never seen before. The door was slightly ajar, and the air was heavy with the smell of medicine and something faintly sterile. Nia opened the door fully, revealing a large room filled with medical equipment, tubes, machines, and what looked like an operating table. Karen gasped. "What is all this? What are you really doing?" Nia turned to her slowly, her face serious now. "Karen, I'm not who you think I am." She paused, then continued. "I'm not just a wife. I'm a doctor, a researcher, and this." She waved her hand around the room. "This is part of my work. We're helping people in need. People who are ignored by everyone else. People who are forgotten by society." Karen's mind was racing. "What do you mean? Who are you helping?" Nia's voice lowered. "We're helping those who can't afford proper care. People who have been written off as unworthy or too sick to be treated. We're giving them hope." Karen was stunned. She never would have guessed. She had thought the couple was hiding something criminal, but this was far from what she expected. Nia continued, "But there are risks. The people we help, they don't always make it, and some of them, they have families who don't want them. That's why we work in secret." Karen took a step back. "So, this isn't illegal?" Nia shook her head. "It's not about the law. It's about doing what's right. Sometimes, the law doesn't protect the people who need it the most." As Nia spoke, Karen felt her anger begin to fade, replaced by a feeling she hadn't expected. Respect. "You're doing all this for them?" Karen asked, her voice softer now. Nia nodded. "Yes, but you need to understand. What we're doing is risky. We don't want to hurt anyone, but if the wrong people find out, everything will be ruined." Karen stood there in silence, her mind overwhelmed. She realized now that she had been wrong to judge Nia and Malik. They weren't hiding a dark secret. They were trying to make the world a better place in their own quiet way. As she left the house, Nia's words echoed in her mind. Sometimes the truth is more than you're ready for. And Karen knew, without a doubt, that she would never look at her neighbors the same way again. After Karen left Nia's house, her mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. She had learned so much, yet she still felt like there was so much more to uncover. Naya and Malik weren't who she thought they were, not by a long shot. But that didn't answer all her questions. The next day, Karen decided to visit them again. She needed to understand more about their work. What they were doing felt important, but also incredibly dangerous. She still wasn't sure how much she could trust them, or herself, for that matter. As she walked across the street, Karen noticed something strange. Mia and Malik's front door was open, but there was no sign of them. No movement, no sounds, nothing. Where are they? Karen whispered to herself. She hesitated for a moment, then decided to walk over to the door. With each step, she felt a growing sense of unease. She couldn't explain it, but something about the house felt different today. Darker, quieter, like the calm before a storm. Karen knocked on the door, but when no one answered, she gently pushed it open. The room was silent, and the air inside felt heavy, almost suffocating. She took a step forward, and that's when she noticed it. The medical equipment was gone. The large machines, the tubes, the operating table, all of it had been packed up. The room was now completely empty. It was as if nothing had ever been there. Her heart began to race. What happened? Karen murmured, her eyes darting around the room in disbelief. She quickly moved through the house, searching for any sign of Nia or Malik. The house was quiet, too quiet. She opened doors, checked rooms, but they were nowhere to be found. It was as if they had disappeared. Karen stood still in the middle of the empty house, trying to make sense of what was happening. She felt a sudden wave of panic wash over her. What if something had gone wrong? What if they were in trouble? Just then, Karen's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID. It was Nia. She answered quickly, her voice filled with worry. Nia, where are you? What's going on? I came by, and the house is empty. Nia's voice was calm, but Karen could hear a trace of exhaustion in it. Karen, you need to listen carefully. I didn't want you to get involved in all of this, but it's too late now. Karen's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? Where are you? What's going on? Nia sighed. I'm sorry. I really am. But this is bigger than both of us. The people we were helping. They'd started to notice us, and some of them are not as grateful as you think. We've had to move everything out quickly to avoid getting caught. Karen could feel her confusion growing. Caught? By who? By the authorities, Nia answered, her voice low. We've been running this operation under the radar for months, helping people who couldn't get care any other way. But someone found out, and now they're coming for us. Karen's mind raced. So, you're in danger. You have to tell me more. What can I do? There was a long pause before Nia spoke again. I don't want to drag you into this, Karen. You've already seen too much. You have to go back to your normal life. Stay away from us. For your safety. Karen felt a rush of anger. I'm not going anywhere until I know you're okay. I'm not leaving you to deal with this alone. Nia's voice softened, filled with a sadness Karen hadn't heard before. I didn't want this for you, Karen. I didn't want you to see the darker side of our world. But sometimes, people like us, we're forced to make choices that others would never understand. Just then, Karen heard the sound of footsteps behind her. She turned around quickly, but no one was there. Nia's voice grew more urgent. Karen, you need to leave now. They're coming for us. I don't know how much time we have. Before Karen could respond, the line went dead. Her heart pounded in her chest as she stood alone in the empty house. What was happening? She couldn't just walk away now. She had to know the truth. She had to help Nia and Malik, no matter the risk. Karen took one last look around the house, her mind racing with thoughts of what could happen next. Karen stood frozen in the middle of the empty house, the phone line dead in her hand. Nia's warning echoed in her mind. They're coming for us. You need to leave. But Karen couldn't leave. Not now. Not after everything she had learned. Not when Nia and Malik were in danger. Her pulse raced as she quickly grabbed her purse and headed toward the door. She didn't know who they were, But she knew she had to find Nia and Malik before it was too late. As Karen stepped out onto the street, she noticed a black car parked across the road. The windows were tinted, and she could barely make out the figures inside. A cold shiver ran down her spine. Something wasn't right. She started walking toward the car, her instincts screaming at her to be careful. But she was too far gone now. She couldn't stop. When she was just a few feet away from the car, the door opened, and a man in a dark suit stepped out. His expression was serious, cold, as if he had been waiting for her. "You're Karen, right?" The man's voice was deep, almost mechanical. Karen nodded, though her heart was pounding so hard she could barely speak. "Who are you? What do you want with Nia and Malik?" The man didn't answer immediately. He just stared at her, sizing her up. "We've been watching you, Karen," he said finally. "We know everything. We know what you've been digging into. We know you've been talking to Nia." Karen took a step back, trying to keep her composure. "What do you want with them? Are you the ones threatening them?" The man smiled faintly, but there was no warmth in it. "Threatening them? No, we don't threaten people, Karen. We simply make things disappear." A chill ran through her. "What do you mean?" He took a step closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. "Nia and Malik have been a problem. They've been helping the wrong people, people who can't be helped. And when people like that get saved, it's a mess. We're here to clean up the mess." Karen's stomach twisted in knots. She could barely believe what she was hearing. These people were dangerous, far more dangerous than she had imagined. "So, you're going to hurt them?" Karen asked, her voice shaking. The man raised an eyebrow. "Hurt them? We'll do whatever it takes to protect our interests. And you, Karen, you need to forget everything you've seen. Go back to your normal life. Go back to being the nice, curious neighbor." Karen's heart raced. She refused to back down now. "I won't forget, and I won't let you hurt them." The man's smile faded, his eyes narrowing. "You think you can stop us? You're in way over your head. Leave them alone, or we'll make sure you regret it." Before Karen could respond, the man turned and walked back to the car. He got inside, and the door slammed shut behind him. The car engine roared to life, and the vehicle sped off down the street. Karen stood there, her mind racing, her body frozen in place. She had just come face to face with the people threatening Nia and Malik. And they were powerful, dangerous. She couldn't stop them alone, but she wasn't going to let them win. Karen rushed back to her house, her mind already racing with plans. She had to find a way to warn Nia and Malik. She had to help them get out of there before it was too late. A few hours later, Karen received an unexpected message from Nia. The text was short, but it made Karen's heart skip a beat. "It's too late. They found us. We're leaving tonight. Thank you for everything, Karen. Please, stay safe." Karen's eyes filled with tears. She knew what this meant. Nia and Malik were leaving the neighborhood, disappearing for good. She might never see them again. And as Karen sat there, staring at the screen, she realized something. She had been wrong about them all along. They weren't the problem. The real threat was the people who wanted to silence them, the people who couldn't stand to see anyone helping those in need. Karen took a deep breath and stared out the window. She didn't know what would happen next, but she knew one thing for sure. She would never forget Nia and Malik's story. They had taught her more about courage, kindness, and sacrifice than she ever could have imagined. And now she had to carry that lesson with her, even if it meant leaving behind the life she had once known.